And happy Wednesday to the world out there. Happy podcast day, everybody.
Happy back to 500 week.
Is that what we should really be celebrating? Happy back to 500 week?
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, there are a lot of people that didn't think we were going to get there.
I was worried.
I mean, I get it. This was not like a team like that looked like it was going to win a lot this year, but you know, it's nice to be at 500. Nice to have those 2 wins under your belt.
USA Today said 4-12, right? We're already at 2.
Yeah, we're at 50% of last year, and hey, we have a better record than the Browns all of a sudden.
Yeah, we do. I mean, and you know what? That's the benchmark, though.
Do you
have a better record? Do you have a better record than the Browns?
And also, we have a better record than the Steelers.
What's up with the Steelers this year?
I think there are a lot of teams that don't know how to play defense.
Yeah, well, the NFL doesn't want to do they?
I don't think the Steelers are as bad as their record, but I'm glad that their record is what it is. That's for sure.
You are what your record says you are, or something.
Yeah.
Who said that?
It's crazy, but you know what's crazy is we're here together. We're here to talk Seahawks. I am Sam. With me, as always, is Zeb and Ross. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me. We are the Seahawks FanTable Podcast, brought to you by Hawkscast Forum. So the Seahawks climb back to 500, but kind of at what cost? So Pink Taco Stadium, I don't know if you guys call it that, but that's what I call it. The Pink Taco Stadium claims the last of the Legion of Boom, with Earl Thomas flipping the bird as he suffers another lower leg fracture. I believe it's the same leg.
Yep, same leg.
His worst fears come to life, and Seattle again returns to an Earl-less secondary. Will Dissly's promising rookie start comes to an end thanks to that desert field at Pink Taco Stadium. And our white-collar crime-committing linebacker has been suspended indefinitely. I don't know the last time someone has been suspended indefinitely. Like, we usually put them on, like, the commissioner's non-exempt list or something crazy like that.
Wasn't Josh Gordon... I want to say Josh Gordon was originally on it. Maybe not. Maybe it was a Washington player. Just a couple of years ago, somebody was on the indefinite list, but you're allowed to like apply for whatever.
Like Adrian Peterson had that happen when like reports of child abuse that came out, and it was pretty much confirmed that whatever you deem is okay as a parent, everyone felt that was excessive. So, or at least excessive to the masses, which again, that's a whole different issue. But maybe he was put on the indefinitely suspended list.
Yeah, could be.
And
about right.
Really quickly, this idea of Michael Kendrick, is it Kendricks or Hendricks? Kendricks. Okay, so this idea of Michael Kendricks, he got busted for insider trading, and for those of you that don't care, rightfully you shouldn't. It probably happens a lot more than we think about it. But basically, he got information that allowed him to turn a lot of money into an even a lot more money in what is a short amount of time. Got found out.
I think it was like a medium amount into a lot of money.
Yeah, it was like
the initial estimate was like 60,000 or 40,000 or something.
Yeah, he turned it into a lot of money for like for at any capacity. It was like tenfold the amount of money he started with, and that's the crime that he committed. For this knowledge that he got and how to use the stock market to his advantage. That was his crime, and he confessed to it, he apologized to it, he paid the money back, so he doesn't end up with that money. And honestly, I don't care a whole lot, because I play there are worse things that you can do, and this ultimately doesn't affect me, because at that point, that money's like, it's too much, it's not enough, it's so much for me to even comprehend, I can't even fathom it. But someone said, if you had robbed a bank, you couldn't just like get a slap on the wrist. It doesn't matter, because you stole money that technically wasn't yours or shouldn't have been yours. And that's like the way that someone has like, at least I heard on the radio, trying to rationalize why it is a big deal. I don't know. Is that what you guys feel like? I don't even know if you guys care about it.
I don't care. All I care about is that the 2 games he played with us, he was actually pretty dang good, and it would have been nice to have him around for longer. That's all I care about.
I was definitely impressed at how well he played right away. I mean, it's going to suck that we still don't have KJ. Shaq Griffin's Shaquem's maybe not ready yet still, but yeah, I think it sucks to lose Kendricks.
Yeah.
Ross, do you care? I'm interested to hear what you think about this.
It's a trap question for me.
Is it?
I'm gonna avoid a lecture because it gets really complex because I've been a person that since my undergrad days has always thought that white collar crime needs to be treated much more severely than it is because actually long term it causes much more damage to society. But this is a different kind. This, like you were talking about that comparison to stealing. This isn't stealing. This isn't like you cheated anybody out of money or anything like that. This is like the stock price went up. Like it's actually just creation of value, and he got more than he should have. But there's literally nobody who didn't get money who should have.
It's like saying
you created more money in the process. So it wasn't like a finite pool of money and he got more of it. Like $100 became like $100 worth of stock became worth $1,000 worth of stock. So if you owned stock, it increased in value. So nobody, literally nobody lost any money on it. It doesn't mean it's right. Like you have to have like a set of rules. Everybody has to play by the rules or whatever. So this is one of those things where like it should be punished. Yeah, you should definitely have to give the money back, and the stocks should be resold, and maybe that profit given to charity or something. But I mean, so I care, but this isn't like the kind of white crime where like you're destroying neighborhoods by stealing investment out of areas, and it's not that kind of white collar crime. It's a different category, and so I find it sort of weird that his punishment's going up there with like Ray Rice knocking that woman out in the elevator or whatever, in front of the elevator or wherever
Right.
Ray Rice, like that, right, just knocked her out. And I mean, it's not the same thing. And I don't know.
It's definitely like these gray scales.
I also want to say I want to add one more thing. This is not homerism because before he joined the Seahawks, I was one of the only people in the world who probably cared about it before because I actually read the article and was quite interested. And originally, even then, I just read it because he had been in the news 1 week before because he was talking about how another team's plays he could read or whatever. So I saw the same name, so I read up on this thing, and I was like, okay. And I'd actually spent some time thinking about what do I think about that kind of crime. So it's not because he's a Seahawk and I think he should be let off, but I mean, this isn't dogfighting. This isn't knocking a woman out in the elevator. This is. Although, to be honest, he does need some punishment because, like, when he first even confessed, did you read his confession? He made it sound like he was the victim. Oh, I got played. Dude, you knew what you were doing. And he was, like, the least effective, like, at it of all time. If you look at the numbers, the process of like, you got to hide stuff like that. And it's easy to hide with some accounting. But he's just, like, turning it over. Like, dude, you got to hide that you're doing it. You got to make it look at least legit.
From what little I heard, it sounded like he said something along the lines of he knew it felt like they were doing something wrong, but he didn't really understand exactly what they were doing.
Right, but he's a smart dude, and he knew.
That's how I would be. If I got in trouble for insider trading, I'd be like, I didn't know I was insider trading. I don't even know what that means.
Right. Yeah, it's weird, but this actually goes.
I was outside the whole time.
Yeah. This actually goes well into kind of topic number one. So topic number one, we're just gonna straight go into it, and we'll talk about the game against the Cardinals a little bit more. But topic number one, who do you support the most? The team, the player, or something else? So this kind of applies. Ross, you say that in this situation, obviously the team gets hurt, the player deserves some kind of a punishment. So it's maybe this isn't fair, but maybe it shouldn't be indefinite. And this is kind of like all three, but in most situations, because we're gonna expand upon this idea. As a general rule of thumb, if you had to weight your priority of who you support the most when it comes to disputes with the team, the direction the team's going, personnel issues, where do you tend to side, and what priority do you put on that? The team, the player, or is it something else?
Who are you going first?
Oh, I said Ross. Sorry.
Oh, I didn't hear you. As an adult now, mature at 46, I am most of the time a team guy. I have my favorite players, and I love certain players, and I still buy jerseys of certain players and things like that. But I'm mostly there are exceptions when I think the team has blown it or missed the call on something, you know. And even when they make personnel mistakes, I'm still in the team's corner. Every once in a while, they do something that I actually deem unfair, like legitimately unfair, and then like I come down on them. But overall, I favor the team because I'm a fan of the team, and I want the team is going to be here for me forever, well, until they get in too much trouble. And so I'm a team guy now. I'm in my list of priorities. I am pro Seahawk, pro player. And then at the very bottom, I'm sort of mildly anti-NFL these days. If I want to talk about another entity, that's where I stand. I think.
Zeb, what about you? Where are you when you try to rank this list?
Well, it kind of depends on the situation, and I'm definitely a Seahawks fan first, more than I'm a fan of any particular player. No matter who's wearing that jersey, I'm going to support them because they're a member of the Seahawks, and that's the most important thing to me. But when it comes to matters that aren't necessarily just football matters, I'm kind of, you're looking at, the players get a lot of flack for holding out when people look at how much money they make. Oh, he's a millionaire. He has nothing to complain about. Just do your job. You know what I mean? But these are young men who are, no matter how much money they're making, they're being taken advantage of by people who have way more money than they do. So while it may appear that they're being fairly compensated, and they probably are, they still are being taken advantage of. So when I see a situation like with Earl,
wait, I have a question. You say they're being taken advantage of, but you say like they're being paid fair. I don't understand. Can you define your terms?
Well, look, compared to a regular person that goes to a job 8 hours a day and works behind a desk, they probably aren't being paid comparably to an NFL player, for that example. But
of course. But I mean, like they're getting paid nicely, but
right.
You can
but
take advantage.
At the same time, if you look at who is making the most money in the NFL, it's not the players.
Right.
And if you compare players to NFL players to basketball players, baseball players, they make considerably less money than those guys do. They play less games, sure, but I think the game is pretty inarguably more hard on the players' bodies than those other sports are.
But part of that's just the nature of the game, where there's 53 players, right?
Yeah, I mean, sure, yeah. There's obviously all sorts of factors involved, but when you're looking at one player who is asking for a new contract because he's concerned that he may get hurt, and if he does so at this point he's not protected, I can't help but sort of side with him over the team in that aspect. You know what I'm saying?
I totally get it. I mean, I'm just wondering if you're, and this isn't like a right wing, coming from a right wing perspective, like condemning you. I'm just saying, I'm saying, there's always like there's the owners of the medium of production kind of thing, right? I mean, are we going to go full and work? I mean, like, whether I work at an office job or if I work for somebody else, they're always going to make money, right? They make money off of my efforts,
right?
Unless I'm actually the owner of the company. I mean, that's why I work for myself. But on the other hand, as you work for yourself, there's also more risks, right?
Totally.
I mean, like if you were the USFL and you're talking about the players were being exploited, well, at the end of the day, the USFL players got to take the salaries and go home, where the USFL owners lost everything when the league folded.
Right.
So I mean, I tell you, like when it comes to Earl, like when I say like, I favor the team, I don't want to sound like I'm down on. I get when players hold out and everything. I think it's dumb, and I also think in these particular cases, I kind of fault the players, but from a different perspective. Where like right now, the NFL players are playing under a horrible CBA, but that's because the players were kind of dumb when first they chose their representation and then they chose their demands, and like they gave away everything because they didn't want to practice at training camp. Really,
look, that you're right about that, but listen. Every single time, if it comes down to players negotiating against team owners, the players are always going to look dumb compared to the team owners. Those guys are geniuses when it comes to making money. That's what they do. The reason they own football teams isn't because they love football. It's because they know how much money they can make doing it. So,
sure. But I would just hope that like Richard Sherman and Doug Baldwin would kind of be able to get their guys together in this next coming CBA and say, you know what? Don't choose the coolest guy in the room. Don't even choose the ex-player. Choose the guy who's going to win the negotiation for you, and then choose what you really want. Like, you know what? Go ahead, go back to doing 2-a-days. It makes a better product. It makes you a better player anyway. And then get some real tangible benefits. Not like, oh, I don't want to practice as much. Come on, man. Like, don't give up the farm so you don't have to practice as much in the summer.
Yeah, I think again we're looking at, guys who are in their mid-20s, maybe early 30s. They just don't see the picture the way a 65-year-old billionaire does. You know what I mean? It's just it's never going to have. They're never going to have the same perspective. Not that doesn't mean that they shouldn't do the best that they can to make the best deal for themselves. And this is CBA, and also with their own personal contracts. These guys hire agents who are supposed to have the player's best interest in mind, but do they necessarily? I don't know. So,
all sorts of rules have to be changed, I think. Like Richard Sherman is a really smart player. He negotiated his own contract, and now he's completely screwed. Now with his injury, he's going to miss a couple weeks. He's going to lose so much more money than if he should take in even a standard NFL contract. And he thought he was being so smart and talked down so much during the summer to what agents do and blah, blah. And when people were trying to give him advice, he wasn't going to hear any of it either. They were telling him, like, Richard, that's not a good contract, and then he was on Twitter talking people down, but now he's going to pay the price because he's going to miss 2 games. He's going to miss the minimum number of plays and things like that. And he's going to lose all kinds of money.
But I think a lot of that with Richard Sherman and any of those other players is they're willing to bet on themselves because they don't have the mindset that they're going to get hurt, that they're going to get injured, that they're going to lose out, that they're never going to be great at what they do. And that's where...
Well, I get it.
And because they have that mentality, that's where it puts them in these really tough positions. Because if Earl Thomas really, really, really wanted to get a contract, he would have sat out the whole time. So, really quickly, I'm going to give you guys a follow-up question. The way that I look at it, it's really similar to Zeb. When it comes to the game, when it comes to the product on the field, I will support the team first because I'm rooting for laundry. That's really what it comes down to. When it's not issues outside of football, when it's a contract disagreement, when it is rights, when it's labor issues, like when they're going to renegotiate their CBA, I'm going to probably support the player. The only time that there's a level of support where I don't give to either of them is when they do stuff that's really stupid. Like the way that they all handled the national anthem, the way that the players just got indignant about it altogether at one point and then it just kind of disappeared again. Like that kind of stuff bothers me because, like, not that people should stay angry forever, but stay angry, find something to do positive about it, and then move on from there. Don't just like show a big huff and then get your face on the cover somewhere, and then once that's gone away, you just move on to the new thing. But my follow-up question that I want to ask you guys is, there are a lot of people on both sides of the Earl Thomas situation that are upset with the team. A lot of them are upset because they're saying, oh, they should have traded him, regardless of what they would have gotten, they should have just traded him. And then there are people that are rightfully upset on behalf of Earl Thomas and the way that he flicked off the sidelines. Quickly on those 2 points, is there anyone that's right or wrong when it comes to what the Seahawks did or did not do for Earl? And are you upset that he flicked off the sideline on his way out on that cart? Ross, what about you? What do you think?
The flipping of the bird on the cart. You know me. I'm a left-wing liberal guy, but as I get older, I'm conservative about certain things, and I'm certainly at least old school, I guess, about certain things. And it didn't sit right with me at first. And it's funny because the target of it probably is the person who gave me the perspective, along with Bobby Wagner. Reading their comments on it, I've got so much to learn from Pete Carroll. I wish the players would respect him more, man. Like Pete Carroll said it all. It's like, you know what? Like that guy's think about what that situation is for him. Think about what's going through his mind and how he feels and whatever. So you know what? Let it go. And like Bobby Wagner said last year, I heard you saying he was going to retire. So I let that go. but I don't really let go. The more like the less, like the in the moment stuff, I have to learn to let go, and I let it go. I have let it go. But the considered behavior of Earl over this whole situation, the complete lack of rationality. We've always joked that Earl's crazy, but I always kind of assumed it was limited to sort of like on the field and just being quirky off the field. But like his demands. I mean, like you have to be able to be a little bit objective, even about your own situation and your own life, and you have to. That's a life skill. I don't care if you're an elite athlete, the top 5 in a higher paid profession in the whole world. You have to have some perspective. And, should they have traded him? They wanted to trade him. We all know they wanted to trade him. They weren't asking too much. Nobody was willing to pay the salary plus the picks. And he has to see that. And he has to see that maybe people aren't going to pay him 50%, 60% more than he's getting right now when he's 3 or 4 years older than he is right now. Because he thinks he's going to be healthy, but that's not how the rest of the world sees the situation. You have to be a little objective and see what they see. And again, everybody else who's in the same, there are other players in their contract years in the NFL, and they're playing, and they prepared all summer to play. And he just team means something. You're on a team sport. Team has to mean something, and he broke the team code left, right, and center. Now, we talked about this last year. You get a little bit of leeway because of who you are and what you've done and where you've been, because you're Earl Thomas. But you know what? A good leader doesn't take advantage of the fact that you still have that cred and you still want to be in there with your dogs. And you playing yo-yo with Tedrick Thompson's emotions every week he prepares, then he doesn't finally get to play after thinking he's gonna play, or he gets to play in a weird position. I mean,
well, he's gonna get to play now.
Yeah.
He is. He is now, and it's not the way he wanted to play.
Zeb, what about you? Where are you in this thought process of did the Seahawks do Earl wrong and him giving the bird to the sidelines?
I mean, I think I mostly agree with Ross's perspective on how things were handled between Earl and the team. Where I think Earl ultimately made his mistake. After everything had been done, all the decisions had been made, and he was going to hold out. His biggest mistake was coming back to play, because he gave up the only leverage he had. If he doesn't think that he's being paid enough to play, if he's not satisfied with his contract, then don't do it. You know what I mean? Like, look at Le'Veon. Like, he's sitting at home now, but he's not. He didn't break his leg, at least. You know what I mean? Like, he's still got a chance for this to work out in the end, where Earl's shot at any of this working out is pretty much done for now. So, I think like Ross said, his decisions weren't very sound to begin with. He didn't go about it the right way, but once he made that decision to hold out, he should have just stuck with it. Nobody knows what the conversations between Earl and John and Pete were like behind the scenes. What they said to each other. What's that?
It sounds like they both kind of got screwed, because it sounds like they were really close to deal with the Chiefs. So,
yeah, at that point, we're going into week 4. I'm curious of what their conversations over the summer were like. Where he's.
I wonder if
you guys know, if you don't give me a new deal, I'm not gonna come. I'm not coming to camp. And what do they say in return to him? Well, show up. Maybe we'll work something out, or I don't know. All that aside, though, I'm not mad at Earl. I'm not mad at him for flipping off Pete or whoever he was flipping off. I don't know. I get it. He's emotional, and it's one of those things where the exact thing he's trying to protect himself from happened, because once again he put it all out on the field for the team, despite the way things may have been between them before that. So I'm not upset at him. Hopefully, what's that?
I was gonna say his salary for this year is guaranteed for injury. So I mean,
yeah.
And if he had stayed home the whole year, which is a strategy, that's $8.5 million. That'd be really hard to recoup in the next contract and the next contract, all things considered. And although he's probably cost himself millions by getting injured now, the same thing is, next year he's still Earl Thomas, right?
Yeah.
People are going to think with broken bones, you're not injury prone. It's a broken bone. It's not
I'm worried about that bone, though. The way that thing's broken now, a couple times that were kind of minimal contact.
I still don't even understand how he broke his leg. Like I watched the tape. I'm like, I hate that field. That's really what it comes down to. Like that field fucks people over left and right, and that's all I can think about. I was like, what happened? He just like stepped and then like crinkled down. He like leaped over the dude and like grabbed his leg and like he
just like the last time he broke it. Like they didn't look like anything happened bad enough for there to be a bone breaking there, but apparently it was.
It's interesting because like, based on his reaction, that's the first time I knew it was broken. Like literally, you could read his face, or he read his not face, but his body language. Like, wow, he knows it's broken right now.
Yeah.
Like just the way he's like, yep, okay, he knows. Like I've become a pretty good thing over the years of diagnosing injury from watching the plays. I often do it to you guys actually with a text during the game, and I'm pretty good success rate. But with his, it wasn't even based on like the replay, like you guys said, you can't even tell. But like just his body language, like okay, it's the same leg, it's broken, and he knows it's broken right now.
Yeah.
I saw that leg flopping in the air, I think before anybody else at the bar noticed it, probably on the, if not the first replay or second replay. I was like, oh, that thing's wiggling. Like, that's no good.
My only issue in the whole Earl Thomas saga, the way that it's ending right now, and we'll talk a little bit more in topic number 2, my only issue about it is people that feel like the Seahawks missed the opportunity by not trading him away. Like, they should have just given him away for whatever they could have gotten and just gotten rid of it, and then they would have been safe. But I don't think that's realistic. Like, you know, that's not the way the NFL works. You don't just trade people for nothing. Like, there has to be some kind of market out there for him, because when he plays for you, he is so good. I really don't care that he flicked the sidelines off, because I had listened to Pete Carroll talk about afterwards, and all he did was just show grace and say, like, look, he calls him a kid because Pete Carroll's like 70 years old and 40 years older than everybody. But he said, you don't understand what this guy is going through right now. Everything going through his mindset in that moment, it's so emotional, it's so raw. I'm going to give him all allowances, no matter what he says or what he does. He's not in a place where he can think about stuff anywhere close to rational. So if he ends up being upset with us and what ends up happening on the field, I'm not going to hold that against him. So that's the way that I'm going to talk about it. But I want to get into topic number 2, because this is where stuff started crashing down. They actually talked about it on the broadcast. Topic number 2, what is the legacy of the Legion of Boom? Zeb, just hit me. What do you think? You know, there is no remnants now. What is the legacy?
Well, I think in 5 or 10 or 15 years, or however long it takes, the legacy of the Legion of Boom is going to be those good seasons that, you know, 2012, 2013, 2014, when they were the best secondary in the league, when we had, you know, the best guys at multiple positions on the defense. I think ultimately that's the legacy. It's one of the best secondaries and one of the best defenses ever put together in the National Football League. And I hope that the relationships between our players and our coaches are all able to heal with time, the way I believe that the fans' memories of that time period will as well.
Ross, what about you? Where are your thoughts on the legacy?
Legacy. What is the Legion of Boom as a team? They helped anyway, put us back on the map. I mean, Seattle, even with missing the playoffs last year, not being super strong this year, Seattle's now like a team that's kind of considered one of those upper echelon franchises. And a lot of that's to them. And a lot of the visibility. Like, you can be a good team but still kind of fly under the radar, but the Legion of Boom was so good and so dynamic, and they did things so special and so uniquely Seattle way that it raised the visibility of the city itself, and especially the football team, just to another level. On a different level, like the legacy in the NFL, I think, is the LOB itself brought back the safety position. Do you remember like 8 years ago, safety was a completely devalued position?
Yeah, everyone was running cover 2.
Right. And it's where you put like your old cornerbacks who were slowing down. It was, you know, I used to get mad about it. You know, I remember talking with you about that, Sammy. It was just, safety was disrespected, but Earl Thomas and Cam Chancellor showed the NFL what safeties can be now. And now, I mean, it's starting to slide again. The market's not there, but they are being drafted higher than they used to be, and they're being valued more than they used to be valued in a sense. And even the cornerbacks. I mean, the LOB, cover three before the LOB was thought to be a high school and sometimes college defense. You can't run the cover three in the NFL. But thanks to the LOB, you got people trying to be the LOB. It's changed how people draft to find. Everybody wants to find. You hear good announcers talking about. They're trying to find their Earl Thomas. They're trying to find their Cam Chancellor. Who's Atlanta's Cam Chancellor? Who's San Francisco's Earl Thomas? I mean, like, yeah, they talk. I mean, it's changed defenses and it's changed how defensive backs are looked at and played now. I think it's changed even how you evaluate. I think.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that, like you were saying, Zeb, it's something that Seattle fans will not really be able to fully appreciate and comprehend. At least maybe like the greater fans. Like I think like fans of the team that can kind of like separate the emotion from, which is hard, from being a fan of all these players and these teams. I think if you can kind of look at it objectively, it's beyond impressive of what they were able to do. 4 years where they led the league in defensive scoring. The 5th year, they were number 2. Until an injury, they were top 4 in defensive scoring. So this was the legacy that they had established, and it's something that I don't think you could fully appreciate or comprehend because it's so fresh, it's so raw. These players are still out there, they're still playing on other teams, they're on our roster, but they're injured. That's something that I think you'll never fully be able to understand or appreciate. But I think there are definitely these key moments and these key things that they've all accomplished that will make it so that when you look at the highlight reel, when you look at the history, you'll have no choice but to just give them your attention, give them your awe, and really understand and say like, wow, I got to watch that live. I got to see that in person. I got to see that on TV. I got to see Richard Sherman on the cover of a Madden video game, and then not only that, he got the entire LOB at that time. It was him, Earl Thomas, Cam Chancellor, and Byron Maxwell inside the cover. So that means that every single person that played that version of Madden had to see the LOB. They even had a hashtag LOB on the video game, on the title screen. So you couldn't avoid that. And that's something that Richard Sherman was really proud about because he said, hey, look, I won the chance to be on the cover of Madden, but I want the LOB with me. There's a really interesting comment from Bobby Wagner, and I'm probably going to, this is a paraphrase, but he was asked, like, what's going to happen? He says, oh, well, there's going to be a 30 for 30 about the LOB, and somewhere in that 30 for 30, they're going to talk a little bit about one of the middle linebackers they had, just as kind of like a quick nod, because when you think about the LOB, it's not always the entire defense. A lot of times it's just that secondary because they were so unique. They had such personality. And there's going to be a chance where that's going to come up again. That's going to come up fresh. I mean, Ross, you were there 2 weeks ago when Cam Chancellor raised the 12th man flag for the home opener, and that's one of the loudest I remember the game being for a Seahawks game. Not saying that Seattle can't get loud, but that was something that got people really pumped.
Yeah, it was special.
Do you think there's anyone that's not going to appreciate the LOB real quick? Is it possible?
People that don't know.
Society's got like this pretty short memory these days, man. And there's always going to be the hard fans who appreciate the history, but people don't always look up the history. And people don't always remember, and people live in the moment these days. So I kind of worry about it. I don't think people really appreciate the what's come before them these days.
Really? So,
God, man.
Last question, real quick. Last question about the LOB. Can you think of a signature moment for every single person that you would consider part of the LOB? You don't have to tell me, but do you think you could, just if you think about a player, can you think of like a signature moment or one of their signature moments like really easily?
Define your LOB.
My LOB is Cam, Earl, Richard, and then I'm going to say Brandon Browner and Byron Maxwell as like a combo.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Totally.
I think so too. Like if you're a fan of this team and you know who those players are and you even know what their numbers are, you should be able to pick out a signature moment because they honestly have so many throughout their time here. Final thoughts on the LOB and their legacy?
I'm gonna miss them.
Yeah, I'm gonna miss them, and I'm really looking forward to looking back on it 10 years from now. Would they do that 30 for 30 or all the other stuff they hopefully do on it?
Everyone pour out a drink for the LOB. I will say, really quickly, I am very impressed with Bradley McDougald, Trey Flowers, and Shaq Griffin. Those guys, I think, are playing amazing, so hopefully we're not going to see a big tail off like we've seen in the past.
Yeah.
Pass defense looks legit, man.
Yeah, for real. I mean, they got kind of lucky in the Arizona game with the drops, but you know, they got beat a couple times. Trey Flowers and Shaquille and Earl.
What they are.
But they ended up incomplete, so it doesn't matter.
His third game,
Yeah.
fourth game. I mean,
all right, let's talk about topic number 3. So this is the Hawkscast Corner. So thank you for Tony. Tony posted on Facebook. He posted about this a while ago, but it actually plays really well into what we want to talk about. So Ross, I'm going to hit this off with you. What effect does the running game have on the wins? I mean, we've had 2 games, 2 running backs, 200-yard rushers, 2 red zone rushing touchdowns, or 3 red zone rushing touchdowns. What is your take on the offense and the running on these past 2 wins?
oh, I'm nervous of this topic. Even though it seems pretty harmless. I've been arguing with people this week about this, oddly enough. All of a sudden, like, people are putting out their advanced stats saying that passing is the way to go, and even though we're running and it's winning, that actually it just shows how antiquated we are and we should be doing it, and it's horrible, and don't do it, and I guess whatever. But, man, I think the offensive line gets pumped when Mike Davis or Chris Carson has a nice run. And, you know, the running touchdowns for the first time in forever, 2 back-to-back 100-yard rushing games. I don't know, man. I think it's a huge morale booster. I think it's a huge identity maker for the team. When this, you know, how long has it been since our offense had a real identity? I mean, the offense isn't doing awesome on the whole. I mean, that's a whole other topic, obviously. But I don't know, man. I can't help but feel that when, like, the running game is actually working, it has all sorts of intangible effects, especially, but even the tangible effects, like shorten that game, protect our defense a little bit, let them be fresh as well. I'm so excited for the running game right now.
Zeb, what about you? What's your take on this? I don't know if you were fighting with anyone online about rushing versus passing, but what's your take?
I feel the exact same way. It's been great to see, especially in the 2 wins. Watching them kind of commit and be successful, and like Ross said, watching how fired up the offensive line gets when they have a successful run or a series of successful runs. I obviously it would be nice to see the passing game kind of come into its own as well, because I think we have the makings of a halfway decent NFL offense. But I guess, I don't know. If you'd told me 2 weeks ago that we'd be sitting at 2-2, I'd be pretty happy about that. And I think the running game is directly the reason for it. The fact that we've been able to grind it out, especially when the passing game hasn't been as successful as you'd like. So we're on the right track, and hopefully we can continue to progress and get better from there.
Would it be a surprise if I told you that in the games that Seattle won, they won the time of possession, and in the games they lost time of possession? Is that a shock to anyone?
Nope.
So I kind of feel like you, Ross. I think this is kind of like a trick question, because it kind of goes to like, well, what's your philosophy? And we'll talk about this in topic number 4. So little tease. The effect that I believe that the running game has on the wins is, I know when I was watching that game, I felt that the Seahawks were a little vanilla. They were a little dry. When they ran well, they ran effective, and they were really, really strong. There was almost 0 negative runs. But it didn't look like they were really willing to, like, punish teams. They had over 150 yards rushing, but I kind of felt like they could have had almost 200 yards if they just ran the ball, like, consistently. They didn't convert a third down in that entire game. A lot of it was due to drops. I don't feel like it was due to the running game because they didn't really run on short and third. The one time they did run on short was on a 4th and 1, and Rashad Penny ripped it for like 15 yards. So I believe that what it comes down to is Pete has the design philosophy of saying, if we control the ball, play strong defense, use the punting game, the kicking game, to pin teams back, it is going to be harder for them to drive down the field, especially with a rookie quarterback, that we will be able to take advantage and we can just eke out wins. We can play good enough to save ourselves so that we're not like constantly trying to like score and score and score and then have a big letdown. I kind of feel like that's what they're trying to get back to. Whether or not that's what's happening or whether or not that's Broughton Schottenheimer's actual scheme, I think it's something that we have yet to see because it's only in the 4th week. But one thing that I found to be really surprising outside of the success that they've had in the run is the lack of complementary play from Russell Wilson. I don't know if this is something that you guys thought about, but I've thought about it a lot, and I kind of feel like Russell Wilson doesn't look like the Russell Wilson I want him to be. Maybe it's because, his receivers aren't playing well. Doug Baldwin came back and had a rare game where all of his catches on 3rd down were like a yard short of converting. Hence, the 0 for 10 on 3rd downs. But I feel like they need to be able to continue to run well, but Russell Wilson needs to be put in a position where he can still manage the game and control it, and I kind of feel like that's something that's been lacking, which is why I'm hoping that it's just something they can fix quickly, as opposed to thinking that like, oh well, we'll just run out the clock, and then if we have a 3rd and short, we'll just pass it, and Russell Wilson will just win us the game, no problem. And he kind of did in this game, but I'm still a little hesitant to assume that it's going to work out perfectly. But we'll see. I mean, it's nice to see.
I'm right there with you.
It's nice to see that they get those 100 yards because it's been so long. But Ross, again, to your point, I think it makes the offensive line, they're excited. They look hungry. Like this offensive line, Brown, Sweezy, Britt, and Fluker, and then Ifedi, they look good. I mean, we're not playing the most amazing teams in, Chandler Jones is still a good defensive lineman, but I didn't feel like Russell was harassed that entire game. He just missed throws and had balls dropped. It wasn't so much what Arizona was doing, it's what we failed to do.
If you ask offensive linemen, 90% of them prefer to run block because it's a different mentality, right? One is you go backwards and you're trying to just keep the guy from getting somewhere, whereas run blocking, you're trying to move your guy. You get to attack him and move that guy. And when the play works, you really feel like you won and you did something and you accomplished something. And that's kind of a proactive thing. Whereas pass blocking, it's almost like being a goalkeeper in soccer. Like the best you can do is like come out even. Like if you're a goalie in soccer, you never score the goals, so you never actually get to like feel like you've done something proactive. All you can do is give up a goal. So you can either do something bad or you can, prevent something bad from happening. You never do something like, you never moved the ball forward yourself. You never, you know what I mean? You know what I'm trying to say?
Yep.
And so I think like they love that. They love to be able to run the ball and get to be proactive and get to attack and win. And then again, I think that builds up the whole rest of the team. And so I think also, and to what you're talking about with Chandler Jones as well, if you keep going, especially pass rushers, same kind of the opposite, right? If you ask a pass rusher, there's lots of pass rushers who can defend the run very well. But if you ask them what they really want to be doing, they want to go after the quarterback. That's where they get their money. That's where they get their highlight films. That's where they get, the impact plays. So if you go after them again and again and again on a run play, and you just attack double team on a run block on Chandler Jones again and again and again and tire that guy out and demoralize that guy, I think you're going to take him out of the game. So even when you do pass, he's not going to be the same. He's going to be tired. He's going to be slightly demoralized, I believe. He's not going to be there. And also, he can't just pin his ears back because he knows that run could come. And so there's so much effect on that the running game has.
Yeah. If anything, to all the people out there: stay off Seahawks Twitter when it comes to the value of the run versus the pass. Because if you're a little bit old school and you like running the ball, you will get eaten alive, because apparently there's advanced metrics that say running is bad. So don't join Ross in that pig pen.
Selective advanced. It's selective advanced metrics, and it's also like trying to measure things. I mean, this is the problem with. I do believe, I'm not that old school. I do believe in advanced metrics. I'm the one always saying, like, you got to apply Moneyball to football, but people treat it like baseball. Football's not a series of one-on-one contests. So the advanced metrics, it's a lot harder to do that. You don't know what the play call even was. I mean, all these people are giving grades every single week. Yo, please, you don't know what. Come on. Like, you can grade and it probably will have some correlation, but you don't know. You don't know, for example, if that free safety was actually supposed to rotate out of that coverage and actually go into man.
Right.
It was just disguised the zone. You don't know that.
Right. It's like saying, like, hey,
that,
while you run the race, the guy that was the favorite actually was hung over and didn't compete. So that's how you won. Like, you don't know if that's what happened.
And there was a long reception a couple of weeks ago where we saw. Who was it? I think we saw Trey Flowers running like 3 or 4 yards behind the wide receiver on a crossing route. We're all just like, no way! Oh my God, he just blew that, right? And when I watched it later, I kind of felt like, you know what? I don't think it was actually Trey Flowers' man. I think he realized a broken coverage and was trying to make up for it. So we're all blaming the wrong guy, and the odds are advanced matrix people marked him down for that play, but more than likely it was supposed to be Bobby.
Right. Or they maybe they split responsibility, but because he's the one that ended up in actual pursuit, it's his responsibility. Yeah.
But again, as even offensive line, to be, if that guard was meant to pull, and that's why he's out there, but it was just that the center messed up, so it makes the guard look like he's out of place. But you don't know. It's really, really hard. Advanced metrics is really, really hard when it comes to football. Yeah. Baseball, it's awesome because it's just one play, and really nobody else on the field matters. Has any effect on what you just did.
Right. I mean, it's a game that counts errors. That's how old school it is, and how like basic, like literally, like basketball counts turnovers. NFL has counts interceptions and fumbles forced and fumble recovery. But baseball basically is like, nope, you should have been able to make that play. That's an error. Like, that doesn't happen in a lot of other sports. So,
just so judgy.
Yeah, it's like, you know what? That was a routine play. You should have made that. We're gonna give you a demerit for that.
I mean, and you could debate it. Like, well, and like you hear the announcers agree just with their voice. They're gonna give him a run for that. They're gonna give him a hit.
Yeah.
So you're saying basically like you think it was an error, like so judgy.
You don't deserve that accolade. You that guy messed up. That's the only reason why you did what you did.
Yeah, exactly.
That would be great.
If you
like,
did that in football, it'd be harsh.
It'd be like, you know what? Chicago really didn't get that pick six. What it is that was the error on Russell Wilson. They just get the ball and they get it at this yard line. They don't get to keep the points.
Yeah.
All right.
You don't get the yards.
Let's move on to our final topic of the night. This one is going to be an exciting matchup because the LA Rams are coming to town, and topic number 4, have the Rams and the NFL passed by Pete and the front office? So a lot of talk this whole week, especially in this game, is talking about the high-scoring LA Rams. They're talking about a team that looked like they could basically turn it on and off. If anyone watched their Thursday night game against the Vikings put up 37 points, but the Rams put up an easier 38 points. These were supposed to be 2 of the marquee defenses, and they gave up almost 70 points in this game. Zeb, when you look at the stats, when you look at highlight reels of the Rams, and you look at what this high-scoring offense that the NFL wants to have, how do you compare that versus what we have with the Seahawks, where the highest scoring output is 24 points? Well,
clearly the Rams are doing things right on offense right now. I don't know enough about the philosophy and the concepts and stuff to say that that them or the league has passed Pete on the front office by, but they sure seem to be doing it just right now. And it seems that they've put themselves into that position by acquiring and drafting the right players for the job. And McVay has clearly done a fantastic job with the system that they're running down there. Because they seem to be able to just chuck that ball, and almost every time somebody's running underneath it to catch it. And that's impressive. But the Seahawks, this offense that we run now, which is apparently different than the one we were running previously last year. But the results seem to feel about the same. And I can't help but feel like we always rely almost on luck or some kind of breakdown in order to have a big explosive play. It's never just, 5-step drop or 7-step drop, chuck the ball, and then there's Tyler Lockett running underneath it. You know what I mean? It's always something crazy happened. Somebody fell down or just an amazing play was made. I would totally not be upset if we were to just be able to put together a more consistent, purposeful passing game. Just like, you get jealous watching these other teams do stuff like that. Like, even the Steelers with who clearly are not having a very good year. Ben Roethlisberger still leads the league in passing yards. Like he's pretty reliable in that department. So yeah, I don't know. I can't say whether it's the front office or if Pete's handcuffing our offensive coordinators in some way, or if Russ is having a hard time. I don't know what it is, but the Rams, without question, are firing on all cylinders on offense, and yeah, I'm jealous for sure.
Ross, what about you? Because this kind of goes into kind of philosophy, and I know this is something that we talk about a lot because it's trying to figure out, like, what kind of team are we? When you compare it against the Rams, do you kind of feel like the NFL has moved beyond what Pete and our team is trying to do, and like the Rams are kind of a really great embodiment of that?
I'm going to break it down into a little bit smaller pieces. I don't believe at this point Schottenheimer is our best OC. I think theoretically Bevel was good in a way. I don't think he was a good play caller, but I think he was good at making the right type of system. But we've also seen that the psychological damage and what was left over from the players, I finally conceded this year we had to get rid of him just because he represented that Super Bowl loss that nobody seems to be able to get over. And so you had to kind of move on anyway. As far as the team itself and the philosophy of the offense, like, first of all, we don't know how much Pete Carroll's telling and guiding the offense. We don't know. We have clues, but even then, they're almost meaningless. Like, whenever something objectively bad happens or there's a disaster, Pete Carroll come out to the media and say, actually, that was my play call. Actually, I told him to do that. But I don't know if he did. Like, I don't think any of us really know. We know that that's Pete's character. He will take the blame. He's ultimately responsible, and he understands how the media works, and so he'll take the blame. But I don't know how much he input. I don't know. I feel like more like he told Schottenheimer what he wants to run, and what he wants it to look like, and he told him to go do it. But we don't know how much he is influencing it day to day. So I really don't think it's Pete Carroll's handcuffing that much, except for overall philosophy. But I like the overall philosophy, and I think the game hasn't passed it by. And I think it's really funny because Pete Carroll's generally considered to be sort of avant-garde and new age, but you're saying he doesn't know how to put in an offensive philosophy that works. I still remember us scoring 150 points in 3 games. And I'm pretty sure the coach at that time was Pete Carroll. It's not that he doesn't want to score points. It's you have limited resources. Something we're not talking about this season is how much of our salary cap is not being used on players on this team because we gave extensions to everybody and we're paying 5.23% of our cap for Cam Chancellor right now. So we're playing not on a level playing field with the Rams. So they have some talent that we don't have right now. And they're different cycles. I know I'm just going on and on and on, but there's so many things you can talk about with this issue. They're also, by the way, they've got, it's so funny that they're winning right now with the Seahawk model on steroids. They've realized, and that's why it's really funny that, this, Pete Carroll's system has been bypassed. The Rams are the Seahawks system. They realized they've got a quarterback on their rookie contract, and everybody saw what Seattle did by going to, with Russell Wilson on his rookie contract, and so they know this is their window, so they've gone all in. But do we really believe that their way of building their roster is the correct one? No. Does it? I mean, the Patriots and the Steelers and yes, the Seahawks have built their roster a certain way, and that's mostly through draft, which is why it hurts when you miss on a couple. But look at how the Rams built their roster. Even they have a few good draft picks there, but it's also built up and propped up by a huge amount of hugely expensive free agents. So do we think the Rams are going to be competitive for the next 8 years like the Seahawks were? Do you want to be good for 1 or 2 years, or do you want to be good every year? I don't think we've been past. I think the Rams are going to pay the serious price. They're. I don't want to. They are really good this year. I wouldn't be surprised. I don't think they'll be making the Super Bowl, but I wouldn't be surprised at all. But I don't. I mean, man, it's all it looks so flashy. I get it, but that's just flashy. Do you want to be actually good for real, or do you just want to look good? I mean, points are nice, but do you want to win all the games every year, or do you want to look really awesome? I don't know. It's. I guess again, for the third time today, I sound super old school. But
if it's winning one Super Bowl versus going to the playoffs every year and losing in the playoffs, I think a lot of people would take that Super Bowl.
Maybe. I've talked to you as well. I mean, I'd rather make one Super Bowl every once in a while than. But again, I don't really believe in the way the Rams are building their roster. I think Sean McVay is brilliant, but I worry about long term. And let's hold our horses. They didn't get to the Super Bowl last year. We're in Game 4 of this season. I mean, let's see what that offense looks like when it gets to December. Let's see what the defense is still looking like when it gets to December, right?
Totally. There's a lot that has to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. And by the way, we're in our first year of our new offensive coordinator. Lots of times that takes a year, unfortunately. Yeah. And again, this year we're playing we're playing handcuffed again. So much, and then the last thing I know I'm taking too much time here. I apologize, but just to just to Zeb's point about how so many of our plays look like luck when they happen, or they look like something bad had to happen. But again, that's always been Russell Wilson's magic, and I think that's actually what's missing right now. They brought in Schottenheimer to work on his Russell Wilson's pocket performance. You want to improve that, and that's great. That's a good goal. But you don't take away what he already does, which is what they've done. He's had one designed rush 4 games. He's had fewer rushes than ever. And those improvised plays, which are gone, those are actually that's a legitimate style.
Real quick though, Ross.
The modern NFL worked against it. Sorry.
Real quick, Russell Wilson's run blocking is on point this year.
Oh yeah, killing
it. But I'd like him to carry it because we know also that extra weapon. That's one more thing for the defense to worry about. You gotta let him carry it sometimes, and you can't play scared. Oh God, he's getting older. He's not old. He's not old at all. You can still run as fast at 30 as you did at 22. I mean, many times. Not everybody, but many times. He's an elite athlete. He can.
I think what it is, Ross, and I agree a lot of what it is. And you say you're coming off this is someone who's older or more conservative or who's not into it. What it comes down to is scoring is flashy. Scoring is fun. People like to have points on the board. That's why teams. But that's the thing, and that's why I think a lot of people will disregard what Pete and his philosophy is, because yes, Pete can turn it on. Pete has allowed his offense to just we're going to just score a ton of points right now. But for the most part, what this team is, what the move to Schottenheimer is going back to, let's play strong fundamental defense, let's control the clock, let's run the ball finally, let's use the kicking game to our advantage to get this dynamic punter to make it tough for them to do anything once we kick the ball to them. And then we're going to have Russell Wilson do Russell Wilson magic, put us in these positions to win. He's not going to cost us games, and we're going to be able to make this sustainable, because that's what this team has always tried to be. And the only reason why we've seen bigger upticks in offense is because it was through necessity, or one component wasn't working, and we had to try and overcompensate. You know, when Russell Wilson went on that tear where he threw like 20 touchdowns in, 6 games, it was because our defense was lacking, and we really need to score. Like, we had to win a shootout, and it's something that we had never seen before. So I think that's what happens.
Well, that's great because they can.
Yeah,
They can't. I mean, well, not right now. Too much a handicap, but a handcuff. I'm saying handicap. Sorry. The last thing I want to say on this, again, back to Zeb's point of where like it looks like it's luck. It's not luck, right? That's just what like, and I get it. It would be awesome if it was just like the drop back of the design throw, but it's a special kind of talent to be able to coach your offensive lineup on, you know what, Russell Wilson's actually probably going to extend this play, and tell your receivers, here's your route, but you know what? After 3 seconds, it's probably like Russ is running around and we're making stuff happen. And in martial arts, for example, that's considered a good thing, like to be very, very fluid, like not marry yourself to one thing that has to happen this play. See what happens once the play starts and see where he goes. And it's harder to coach in some ways, but as long as you keep your fundamentals there, it can still work. And it has worked.
Yeah.
It has worked for years. And it's very, very, very hard to defend. I mean, Sammy knows these days I'm a little bit kind of obsessed with Bruce Lee, having read his biography. And what Russell Wilson does on offense to us reminds me of Bruce Lee's approach to martial arts, where instead of having these forms, these very, very formal forms, you let him run around as long as you're coaching up on it and you coach your fundamentals right. Those are all building blocks. And then let Russ run around and see what he's going to make. And let Doug Baldwin realize that, oh my gosh, I better cut off a route and I'm going to run over here. Or let, and all these things that you can do that. And that is actually a legitimate way of going. Yeah. We're not even letting him do that. So that's where I do agree. That,
and I think we're missing that right now. We're missing that right now in the passing game, but I think it definitely showed itself in the running game. When Russell Wilson's running at 3 or 4 times, whether or not he actually engages as a blocker, the fact that he's out there and he's a presence, he's putting himself in this position where he's doing something that's dynamic that a lot of other people wouldn't be able to do. Mike Davis can't score a couple of those touchdowns if Russell Wilson is not leading the way for him or for any of the other running backs. And that's a rarity. It's not necessarily the greatest thing, but that's also of who Russell Wilson is. It's that fluidity, willing to do what is necessary to make this a positive play. So I think what it comes down to is people are obsessed with scoring. Maybe it's the fantasy football influence. I know I am susceptible to that. But I think in football, when it comes to actually winning games, it's not just about being able to score the most points. It's about being able to do something that you fundamentally believe in. And for Pete Carroll and this current iteration of the Seahawks, it's control the clock, run the ball efficiently, play strong defense, bend don't break, pin them back with special teams, convert your kicks, and have a quarterback that is dynamic to win close games. And right now we're not hitting on all of those, but that's the formula, and I think it works for them. And I don't think the NFL has passed Seattle by. I don't think just because the Rams are on this uptick that all of a sudden that they're, going to take over the world. Because like Ross said, this roster is very combustible. Like, they're not going to be built to last because, again, they have too many players that are going to become free agents in the next 1 to 2 years. And who knows if they're going to keep Jared Goff. I can't imagine that they're all of a sudden spend $25-30 million on Jared Goff. Not that he can't be a great quarterback, but I think they're going to say no, Sean McVay can find someone else just as good. So see ya.
That's good. It might be the first team that's brave enough not to do that and say, you know what, we're just going to go all in on that Seattle model, but we're going to keep it going. Whereas Seattle bailed on it. Seattle got to Russell Wilson's contract, they paid it. Maybe Sean McVay is the first guy to say, I can do that.
Yeah, we'll
next
see.
Cycle's just be with another rookie quarterback or another first rookie contract quarterback, maybe.
We'll see. Yeah, I mean,
Can I say one more thing on this?
Yeah.
Sorry, I know we're too long. Just say the one more excellent thing about Pete Carroll's philosophy when people think it's old school. I don't think it actually is old school. I think it looks old school, but I don't think it is. But when you play against teams when every other team is built like the Rams and New Orleans. So most defenses prepare for that by buying up huge amounts of cornerbacks and pass rushers and things like that. And those are expensive, right? What does Patrick Peterson make? What does Richard Sherman make in his prime and things like that? And so then you play against them with your team, and your team is built to run the ball. So they've got their $13 to $21 million cornerback out on the side, and who are they? They've spent that resources on that, and you line them against your $500,000 or $1 million wide receiver 3, because that's not where we put our money. And they line up their $22 million pass rusher who wants to go after Russell Wilson, but instead we're just going to run the ball straight at him over and over and over again. So there's a certain, again, I keep coming back to it, there's a certain Moneyball aspect to it as well that actually does make sense. You make the other team waste their resources. They're meant to defend against what every other NFL team is doing, but you're making them waste all of that money by having elite cornerbacks to protect against something that's not going to happen, to be designed to rush your quarterback, and you're only going to throw 20 instead of 45 times. There's a certain beauty and intelligence to that as well, I think.
I think what it is it works. It has historically worked for the Seahawks. They're getting back to that model because they've decided that they have to make a harder correction than they've done in the past, and I think the foundation is getting there. So I'm with you, Ross. I think the Seahawks will continue to stay in this model. I haven't given up on Pete yet. I haven't given up on this team yet. And we're going to talk about that in our predictions. So, good topics. So, we have our predictions. So, Zeb, I'm going to hit you off with all of these first. The first one, we're going to talk about who's going to win this game and what's your score.
I hate to say it, but I think the Rams are going to win. And I think they're going to. I think the Seahawks are going to play them a good game. I think they're going to keep it close. I would say something like 31-27.
One score game. Ross, where are you on the final score?
I have 37-28 written down.
37-28 for the Rams.
Yeah.
I am going to say that this is the second home game. I think people have gotten excited with 2 wins. I don't know if I'm ready to fully commit to a Seahawks win. I think we are going to play them tougher because it's a divisional game. This has always happened to the Seattle Seahawks when they were like the favorites. A upstart division rival out of nowhere plays the game of their year and just unfolds everything. I don't know if this is going to happen this year, but I'm going to say it's closer. I'm going to say Seattle loses 20-23. Rams are not going to get all the scores that they normally would use to.
Okay.
So we cover. And it's a 1-score game.
I like it.
So with this, we're going to say who's going to get more rushing yards. Todd Gurley is currently averaging about over 100 yards a game. We've got 2 different running backs that have over 100 yards. Who's going to get more rushing yards, the Seahawks or the Rams?
The Rams.
Ross?
Seahawks.
I'm going to go with the Seahawks. I'm really impressed with how Mike Davis ran. If Chris Carson is back, Rashard Penny really flashed well. I'm totally ready to give up on Pro Size. That guy's essentially my John Carlson right now. All right, over-under time. Zeb, what is the over-under pictures of Sean McVay and his wife? And if you are not familiar, Sean McVay is a very young, attractive, young head coach. He has a young, attractive wife. How many times do you think she will make a presence on the broadcast? Over, under 1.5?
Over. I think 2 times seems reasonable.
Ross?
Hold on a second. I'm Googling this.
All right. While Ross is Googling Sean McVay's wife, I'm going to go with Zeb. I'm going to say it's over. Obviously, it's a great story. He's the youngest coach in the NFL. He's got his team currently undefeated. I think there's a good chance that they're going to do a quick story about him. It's going to be a big divisional game. I think it's going to be over 1.5. Ross, do you find it?
When did they? Yeah, but it all says girlfriend. Did they just get married?
They got married last year, I believe, or they've been married for a while. But
were you invited?
I was not, unfortunately. I was busy. I had a work appointment.
I'm going to go over.
All right, everyone says over. All right, over under on Russell Wilson sacks taken. So he only had 2 sacks in the past 2 games each. Over under 3.5. Zeb.
Under.
Under. Ross.
Yes, sir.
Under. Just under.
He's got like 3. I'm gonna go under as well, but I think it's because the Seahawks are gonna try and stop that explosive offense from getting on the field. They're gonna run the ball quite a bit. This is a yes or no question. Will Doug Baldwin convert on 3rd down in this game? Yes or no?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh my god, that was frustrating.
Yep.
Yeah, he will.
I think Doug Baldwin has definitely shown his frustration in that game. He will definitely move the sticks. He's definitely going to convert on those 3rd downs. Will a different Seahawks running back pass 100 yards rushing? Yes or no? So we had Chris Carson, we had Mike Davis, Rashad Penny, CJ Procise. Yes or no? Was that
Different.
No.
no? Ross?
Nope.
I think the answer should be no. If anyone's going to do it, it would be Penny. But yeah, Chris Carson and Mike Davis, no, they flash well. I hope they can keep it up. And the last one is, are the Seahawks going to convert more than 33% of their 3rd down opportunities? Zeb, yes or no?
Yo, McVay's girl is unbelievable. Where the hell did she come from? What is this? This is not real.
But like, what's her? She must be something interesting because her last name
Is unpronounceable.
Coleman. Where's that from?
We will not convert more than 33% of our 3rd down opportunities. No, we're not good at that.
All right. Ross? Ross is
She's from
distracted.
the Ukraine.
He's busy.
She's from the Ukraine. Okay. So now it's settled. She's from the Ukraine. Originally from the Ukraine. Cool.
I wish she was from the
So, I will say yes.
Oh.
Not a tremendous huge amount more, but more than a 3rd. Yeah.
They're going to get 4 out of 10 instead of 3 out of 10.
Like, yeah, I could see like 4 out of 10, 5 out of 12. Yeah.
I'll be happy with that.
Quick shout out to JG from the Northwest. How's it going, man? Thanks for chiming in on the chat. Yeah, I'm going to say they have to. If they want to make this game anything, they have to be able to convert on 3rd down. They have to be able to get that ball out. Otherwise, it's not going to look pretty, and we're going to be one of those other teams that just end up a speed bump on their way. And with that, gentlemen, that is our show for today. So, shout outs.
Look, check it out. It's Triple B Podcast. We're going live Saturday. We got all our video situation handled. I don't know what time yet, but if you go on Facebook and find the Triple B Podcast, or go on Twitter and find us, we're gonna send out alerts. We're gonna go live Saturday for the first time ever. So check that out if you can.
And Zeb's going to put it on the forum, so look for it on hawkscast.com. Ross, shout outs.
Shout out to the Ukraine.
Yeah, you dirt dog.
Ross is also going to create a forum topic about the Mrs. Sean McVay, so check it out on hawkscast.com.
Website.
I'm sure she has websites.
Velver Arze.
Well, apparently we've lost Ross, so Ross doesn't have any shout outs for this time. So,
Am I not here? Am I not here?
You're here.
Okay.
You're here-ish.
I don't have any shout outs. Ukraine is my shout out.
all right,
Yeah.
UK's a shout out for Ross. Shout out to JG from the Northwest for chiming in on the Twitch chat. Shout out to Tony for providing us with our Hawkscast Corner topic. Thank you very much for providing that. Those are always great. Check us out on Seahawks FanTable on Facebook. We're on Twitter at Seahawks Podcast and Seahawks Forum, which is thehawkscast.com. It's a forum. It's a fan site. We'd love to have you. We're working on getting a special guest. Hopefully they're going to be able to write something for the site as well, so definitely check that out. In the meantime, I am Sam. That is Ross and Zeb, and we are the Seahawks FanTable Podcast. Thank you for checking us out, and go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
The Hawks.